On today's show, we feature photographer Mel Noodelman. And welcome everybody to Magical People. I'm excited to present our guest this week. It's an old high school chum of mine, Mel Noodelman, and his photographs. It sounds like a dance troupe, but it's not. Welcome to the show, Mel. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Michael. It's great to be here with you and catch up after all these years.
I know, it's so cool. I was very, very excited, and it felt really good when you contacted me the other week. And it's like, wow, here's a guy that I admired. You probably didn't know that, who I admired in high school. And after all these years, I'm going to age myself. I'm going to admit we
But you're going to
graduated.
age me if you age yourself.
Yeah, but think the last time. Well, I'll just say we graduated in '74. We're the class of '74, Northmount High School, Montreal, and I didn't hear a lot, not only of you, but a few other people I did hear of and from, and that was wonderful. And you always struck me as a person who was into photography and who was very meticulous in his work. You were involved. You were our annual, our '74 annual. And what I'm going to do as I speak is there'll be photos coming up showing maybe our cover and various other things. And you might remember, I think it was a goldenrod cover or yellow for
It
lay
was
people.
yellowish, yeah.
And I don't know if you want me to,
With your illustration was the front cover.
and you kindly asked me to illustrate the annual, and really it was all your ideas, which I thought were brilliant and fun. I'm not just saying that to be nice. I have nothing to gain by it, but it took a whole lot of pressure off of me to have direction, which I apparently still require even in the magic world. However, so that was greatly appreciated. And I don't know, you can tell me now if you want me in the course of this in the next few seconds to pop up a couple of pictures of yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. You were a good looking guy. I thought you were better looking than me any day. But if I have to go ahead, I think there's a picture of you like sitting back with your feet up on the chair
Oh yeah, yeah.
and all that. Is that
we
okay?
we didn't take any serious. I mean, as you remember, we turned our yearbook into a Monty Python-esque farce, and it was appreciated by all the teachers and none of the students.
I don't know why. I don't know
Because
why.
everybody wants it to be a nice memory, and we were so into Monty Python that we were just anarchists. What can I say?
I love it. I love it. So, in the course of time, we all live, we have our careers and all that sort of thing. But I discovered, thanks to you, you were kind enough to share with me some photographs, not a ton of photographs, but we will show, we'll call up as we get a little bit more specific, some of your photographs. And I'm going to cheat for those at home. I've got in front of me 6 files of your photos. And one is abstracts, one is macro, one is nature, one is people, one is places, and one are still photographs. And you know which ones I'm excited about because you breathe life into them. However, it's up to you to start with whichever ones you'd like.
Oh my, that's tough.
What a feeling of
Um,
power, eh?
which ones do I like? I'm just looking at my in those folders that you showed. How
Mhm.
about we start here with Chica Manhattan?
Oh, so that's people, right?
People, yeah.
Ah, that's one of my favorite ones. We did cheat last week and we spoke and went through some of these. And I'm just going to go right there. I love this photo. Maybe give us a bit of background.
I was visiting we were visiting my daughter-in-law in New York City, Manhattan, and I went out for a walk in the early morning, and I was just walking by a subway station near her apartment, and this I guess you could call him a street person. Just he saw my camera and he glommed onto me and said, "You got to take my picture," and started posing for me impromptu
I love
on the
it.
street outside the subway station in a construction zone. So I took a couple shots and he would come running over and take a look in the back of my camera to see what it was. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And he went back and forth doing all these poses. And it was like I was working with a model on the street, except it was all impromptu and unpaid. And he was a terrific subject and an interesting fellow, very, very entertaining.
I love it. I love it. Now you have a few from China, you have a few from Israel. Where do you want to go?
Um, Either one's fine.
Let's just kind of go sort of in order. Let's do the Kangzhou one, the China one with the man in front of what looks like a ton of bricks.
Okay, let me
That
find
would
that.
be the first one in the people file.
Right. Okay. Oh, you like that one?
Yeah,
Not one of my favorites.
I love it. It's very tactile and the
Yeah.
contrast of materials. Some people will get that out there that are watching. Others will go, oh, what a nice composition. Others will go, oh, the lighting's kind of interesting. But I want your perspective because it is one of my favorites.
I was lucky enough to go to China on business, and we were doing some work for this company that was working with the government to bring modern convenience stores to the rural villages across China. So essentially, um, the company arranged for me to have a tour of some of these rural villages and see the real China. You know, not the Shanghai and the Beijing, but the rural peasant villages, and it was absolutely fascinating. We got to this, I think it's called Kangzhou or
Mhm.
Sangju, something like that. Um, Unfortunately, it was obviously a very poor village.
Yes.
The streets weren't paved. They'd had a lot of rain that week, and the streets were just mud and puddles. And then there was this modern convenience store plunked down right in the middle with a concrete um, uh, front yard, basically. And that was it. That was the only modern thing in the entire village. And I just ended up running around in the mud with my
Mm.
camera, taking pictures of all of the people in the street. It was market day and it was a sunny day.
Let's
And
actually go
despite the
to, we're going to go to Market Day. That's if you scroll down, that's one of the photos, and there's a few people in the picture, and you can see, I think it's lettuce. I can't really tell, but it's
yes,
obviously Market Day
lettuce.
there.
I
Yep.
think it was lettuce of some kind.
Hmm.
And yeah, everyone had a huge smile on their face. They were just enjoying the nice weather after the rain. And they, I mean, you can see in the pictures, there's bricks and stuff all over the place. It's filthy. They're dressed in old beaten up clothes and so on. Half of them are smoking, and but they've all got these irrepressible smiles on their faces. Everyone was just out enjoying market day.
Absolutely. There's a wonderful picture of a lady, I believe it is, in front of a cart. It's
Yeah.
something, it's a wheeled thing. And what great angles and composition there. Um, uh, did you want to speak about this person? Do you have any comments?
She was just one of dozens and dozens of interesting people, and there
Mhm.
was no communication beyond holding up my camera and asking with my head, can I take a picture, and everybody was happy to pose. I
Yeah,
don't think they'd seen a Caucasian necessarily in their lives, so
yeah.
I was I was a real oddity in the village.
Huh. What
And
kind of
the,
camera? Sorry to interrupt. What kind of camera were you using, Mel?
I think that was my first Nikon digital camera, which was only
Oh,
an entry level recreational one. And I've since, traded up and traded up. So that was the first digital camera I had,
very cool.
Nikon D70S,
Very cool. We're going to
which is dating
switch
me.
to different parts of the world. We're going to go from China to Israel, something that's near and dear to both of us because of our backgrounds. And right now, I see three photos. I don't know if there's more, but I see kid in Jerusalem, kids in Jerusalem, and kids on the rock, which sounds like a kind of a drink, but it's not. And which one should, let's just go in order. Kid in Jerusalem. He
Mhm.
seems to be kind of warning you. What is he doing there?
We were, I went to Israel sort of under false pretenses. My wife at the time was working for this magazine called Lux, which was a struggling magazine that wasn't properly financed. So they had arranged to do the special edition to support the Jerusalem Foundation. And because the finances were weak, they couldn't book a photographer and a copywriter ahead of time. It came down to the last minute, and at the last minute, nobody was available.
Hmm.
So they turned to me because they knew I could write and I was into photography. And I became the photojournalist for the magazine.
Ah,
And I pretended to be a photojournalist as I went to Israel. And one of the sites they took us to, because the Jerusalem Foundation does all kinds of good work to try and bring the Arab and Israeli populations together and build peace. So this school was half and half Arab and Israeli, and the kids were just wonderful. The teachers were wonderful. Everything was lovely. But as we were going into the school, there were some kids playing in at the yard outside the school, and I stopped to take a few pics, and they were so security conscious that this little boy, saw me with the camera, and he said, "No, that's not supposed to happen." And he
hmm,
comes charging over,
hmm.
yelling at me, "No, no, 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 you can't do this." And I explained who I was and who I was with, and it's like, "Oh, okay." Well, all of a sudden it went from "you're the enemy" to "take my
Yeah.
picture, take my picture."
And there we see now kids in Jerusalem. So they're
Yeah,
a little bit more welcoming and friendly. And you've got the
yeah,
rabbit ears or something behind the kid. That's so
yeah.
cute. Very
The
cute.
Kids on the Rock is actually not Jerusalem. That's at the beaches here in Toronto.
Oh, TO.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, they don't really look like Israeli kids. That's a great pick anyway. In the Shade, just grabbed my eye for many, many reasons. What's the story briefly around that?
Around which one?
In the Shade.
In the Shade.
Yeah, there's a fellow sitting, and it looks like a
Oh,
straw
in the
hat.
Shade.
Yeah.
That's Kensington Market in
Ah,
Toronto,
yeah.
downtown Toronto. Um, it's a funky area where there's a combination of street life. So there's homeless and poor hanging out on the street, some looking for money, a lot of them just vending juices or whatever they have in little stalls around. And so it's a very funky and interesting place to hang out. And this guy was just sitting under an awning in front of a mural that had been painted on the brick wall in the shade with his drink. And I just, I looked at him and went, I got to take this guy. It's just such a wonderful look. And he really just caught my eye. And I said, this is something that needs to be preserved.
Very cool. I scrolled up a bit to Hangin in Kensington. There's three fellows there. And what an interesting, for me, it's an interesting character study. Any comments about that?
That the fresh fruit juice vendors.
We can go up to that one as well. That's really cool as well. Where was that taken?
That was also Kensington Market.
Oh, okay.
And these guys were selling fresh juice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my camera, and they gladly posed for me. And we got to talking a little bit. And they were very fun and interesting and to chat with, and very photogenic in my mind. So I got a few good pics of them.
Very cool. I'll just be calling up pictures in the final result. We've got chilling in Kensington, cool drink in Kensington. So people will at least be able to appreciate the scope of these photos and the depth and color as well. I'd love to. There's one, it's an interesting fellow with a hat. I got your bottle. I got your bottle. And there's another one as well. Ire. Again, what an interesting character study that is.
I'm looking for I got your bottle.
I've moved on because I realized, oh, hmm, it's just an interesting shot.
Hmm.
Now I've moved to Ire, which is actually right beneath I got your bottle.
And what is it?
It looks like IRE. It's fellow, black fellow with
Oh, oh,
dreads.
oh.
Yeah, and neat beads and a great smile. I would
Is
love to
this
have
people
illustrated
under
this.
people?
Pardon me?
Is this under people? I don't see
Yep,
it.
yeah, it's people. Um, he was
Oh,
probably,
Irie. Yes.
yep,
Okay, I got it.
Irie. Ah, not Ire, Irie. Okay.
Irie, that's Jamaican. Irie.
Ah, didn't know. I did not know that.
He
Okay.
was one of the juice guys, and
Ah,
uh, they were just so much fun to talk to. I mean, I just was shooting them, and we had a great time together for about 10, 15 minutes. And
awesome.
the juice was delicious, by the way.
Ah, here's Righteous, also, I believe, in Kensington Market. Iyer, it's a cool guy with shades. And
That's one of my favorite shots, actually.
I love it. I love the composition, the colors. I
He
would love
matched the
to.
wall behind them. It was so insane. The
Ah,
same color combinations and just such a great look. I mean, I can't take credit really for I'm just recording what was in front of me, and they were such interesting and amazing people that I really you don't need much talent. I could have taken it with an Instamatic, a Kodak. You know, if you remember
I
the
hear
old
you.
Kodak Instamatic, it would have come out just as good probably.
I hear you. Kensington Market has come such a long way. The last time I was in TO altogether, well, it wasn't the last time, but one of the times was in 81. And Kensington Market and TO was very much the way the TV show King of Kensington looked. It was a great big market, streets with all kinds of neat things going on, but it didn't seem to have the same kind of color that you've managed to get in these pictures unless I was blind and missed stuff. So they've really come a long way. Let's see, where would you like to go now? Macro is beautiful. I'm just going to run through these very, because there's only 5 pictures of your macro shots.
So far.
And yes, of course. And does anyone speak to you in particular?
Actually, the macros are all just pretty much flower shots at the moment.
Okay.
Nothing too special. Um,
I like thistles. That's very interesting.
that's
Very,
a little more interesting. It's just a thistle bush, but I managed to get. I think I took that at dusk and used a flash, so we got a black background, which was just happenstance. I mean, given the time of day. So there's a nice contrast. The close up stands out very nicely against the black background.
beautiful,
But that was just in
beautiful.
the park across the street from my apartment.
Very cool. I've switched over to nature, and thus far there's 2, 4, 6, 7 pictures. And right now, when people are actually watching this, they'll see them kind of go by
Mhm.
in succession. I don't know if there's one that stands out. Personally, I love Ice Storm and I love Ice Tree. Did you want to comment on those?
That was also across the street. I think 2013,
Yes.
we had a big ice storm, and there were trees down everywhere in the park. You couldn't even walk the paved trails because every 100 feet or so there was another tree down. And everything was just coated in ice, and the sun was lighting up the ice on the trees. It was just stunning. It was just stunning. So I took quite a number of pictures that day, and it was just a delight.
Very cool. I've switched now to places. There's only one picture right now there, and it's a Chinese temple. Where is this Chinese temple?
That is outside an entrance to a tourist area in the Great Wall.
Oh, so it's actually on location. You're
Yeah.
actually there. This isn't Chinatown in Toronto.
No, no, no. That's China, China.
Yes, yes,
And
something
I
near
had
and dear.
a couple of young women
Hmm.
ended up taking me on the tour of the Great Wall,
Ah,
and it was a fascinating afternoon, and it was just so picturesque, beautiful sunny day, and we climbed and climbed for an hour or two. It was just very busy. It was very popular with it was mostly Chinese people there, very few tourists. I don't even
oh,
know if I saw another Caucasian the whole day.
interesting. Now I've switched to abstracts because I'm not just saying this to be nice, I simply love them. And we can actually, I see after the ice storm, which is interesting. Wow. Did you want to talk briefly? There's these wonderful icicles sort of hanging from bench. And then there's the trees in front of them. But did you want to comment on that one?
Well, that was the same ice storm,
Yes.
and that was one of the park benches up near the sidewalk, and it was just totally coated, and the icicles hanging down, and it just appealed to me. I thought it was a cool look, and I grabbed a shot.
Beautiful. I'm going over to Campfire, also under abstracts. You have two under abstracts of Campfire, and that I can see the movement in it. It's for me as a magician, as a visual artist, a graphic designer, and a hobbyist photographer. I love these Campfire Sparks. They're just gorgeous. Is there any story behind them?
We were just up in Muskoka, and it was night. We had a bonfire going, and it was sparking a lot. And I had my camera with me, and I just wanted to see if I could somehow manage to capture all the sparks rising up. So I was playing around and taking long exposure shots handheld. So I knew they weren't going to be sharp, but I just wanted to capture the feeling.
Yes.
And I have a whole series. They came out, this brilliant, brilliant red of the spark, and you see the trails all the way up with the long exposure. And it's just the patterns were random and beautiful.
Oh,
So I've got, I think, a couple dozen of these, and I've just selected a couple or two or three that I'll put on my website when I finally finish working on it.
they're gorgeous. Now there's one, I don't want to give away what it is. Um, because I had no clue, but they look like orange or red, a couple of spirals going here and going there. And if a person would just look at it, if as I'm calling it up on the screen right now, people wouldn't know what that is. I'm assuming you know what I'm referring to.
Yes, I do.
And now we can
And I
share
now I
that.
don't know how I'm going to possibly talk about it without saying what they are.
Okay, so let's clue people in because I had no clue. I thought, wow, this is almost psychedelic. I don't know how to describe it, but let's give it away now. These are,
A couple of chairs at the Science Museum in Jerusalem, just outside Jerusalem, I believe. This was part of the Jerusalem Foundation photojournalism mission.
Ah,
And we were being shown around by our host from the Jerusalem Foundation. They took us to this museum, and it was late in the afternoon. And we're starting the tour. And as we're walking in, we're passing the cafeteria, which was empty. And the sun was at the perfect point where it's golden and glowing. Before it was about to set, it was the golden hour. And I saw these chairs lit by the sun, and I went, wow, I can do something really evocative and different. And I completely lost the tour and was rearranging chairs and trying different positions to see if I could get an abstract shot with just shapes that didn't explain what you were really looking at, but just had a bit of a flow to it.
yes.
And so 20 minutes arranging chairs and shooting them at different angles. And I finally got the shot I wanted, which was this one. And then I had to run and try and find the group. I went upstairs, and I was catching up to them, and I'm overlooking the cafeteria from the second floor, and
Ah,
started shooting the chairs again from an aerial perspective
wow.
because they were scattered around and they made a pattern.
So cool.
So let's just say that the delegation ripped me about Mel and his chairs for the rest of the trip.
No doubt, no doubt. I just have to, I was going to skip over these because of time, but I want to do this. Enoki mushrooms. Look how gorgeous that is. It doesn't look real. It looks like an oil painting or some kind of thing. Is there a story behind this?
Well, I had never really gotten familiar with Enoki mushrooms, and I was in the grocery store and I saw them. And I said, "Those are cool." So I bought a package, and then I really liked the look of it. So I set up a little tabletop studio and put on my lights and all the paraphernalia, and I played around shooting them. And then I took the shots where they looked like what they were, more mushroomy, and just played with it a little bit in Photoshop. I have to say I don't know how to use Photoshop very well, so my skills are very limiting. But I managed to play around a little bit with the colors and the color saturation and the color hues, and got this look that I ended up putting.
Fantastic. I want to make an observation here, if you will, that photographers, they don't necessarily eat the mushrooms, they take pictures of them. I thought that was kind of interesting. You said, oh, you took home the Enoki mushrooms. And it's like, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to consume them, but they made a great composition. They're just gorgeous. And I don't understand, but it looks gorgeous. Telephone pole.
Hmm.
It's just fascinating. A myriad of textures and compositions. What's the story behind telephone pole?
Well, that was back in Kensington Market, of course, because I love shooting there.
Okay.
And because of the area, people are always posting bills on all the telephone poles. So I'm passing this pole, and all the papers had been ripped off it.
Ah,
And there were all of these staples and painted over in places still left from all of the hundreds and hundreds of posters that have been stapled on. And it just looked really interesting to me. So I took a very close up of it and made it an abstract piece.
I love it. I love it. Just for a moment, we're going to get serious with Hate Has No Home here. And I'm assuming this is another telephone pole from what I gather. What was this? Was it painted on? Was it a poster? It looks like there's tape over it. Very evocative and appropriate for this time.
I think I shot that about a year and a half ago. And that was again in Kensington Market. I do go other places. That's one of my favorites. And it was just a sign that somebody had put up.
Yes,
And I thought it was a lovely message. And so I shot it.
beautiful. Perfect. We're going to switch to still photographs, the last couple of them. And I love Dragon. The is a Dragon in the Woods?
Hmm.
That one. Now this is very interesting because it looks like a dragon, but I suspect it's something else that you found, you came across. What's the story behind that, Mel?
This is related to that ice storm, if you can
Okay.
believe it. So I live across from this really big park, and when the ice storm hit, there were, as I mentioned earlier, there were trees down everywhere. So when the maintenance crew was working their way, cleaning up all the fallen trees from the trails, one of the guys, as a joke, had carved up this tree that they cut off and realized that it had the shapes that he could play with. And he took his chainsaw and he just cut into the wood and made this sort of like animal, dragony type face.
Yes.
And it's still there to this day. It's been repainted several times. So originally it wasn't painted because he just had his chainsaw. And then as people walked by, once in a while, somebody would come and the first person painted it. I think that's one of the earliest versions of the painted
Ah,
dragon.
okay.
And they stuck a piece of dead sod on top for a hat. It's wearing a blue hat right now. I still go walk by it just about every day.
Oh,
So the look has changed from year to year, and the hats change every season or two. And it was just such a wonderful shot. And it's a collective piece of art. It's in the middle of the woods.
absolutely. I love it. And finally, the photograph beside it, Wednesday 0893 Israel. I can't tell what those are, which in itself makes the whole thing fascinating. What's the deal? What's the story behind that?
That's back in Israel.
Hmm.
And we were looking at they recreated a deserted, abandoned Roman village.
Oh,
And so they had just this display of pottery. And the light was lovely and the pottery was beautiful. And I just liked the look and again went close up to make it a little obtuse. And just, I love the light on those pots. So I
I
took
do
a few.
too. It's fantastic. We're going to wrap up now, Mel. I'm just wondering if people want to see more of your photographs or get in touch with you for whatever reasons, how can they?
Well, I may need your help still
Okay.
because I am trying to set up a website
Okay.
and I'm not very good at it. So I'm going to, I have actually taken out a domain, but it's not live yet,
Okay.
noodlemanphotos.com.
Excellent. Okay.
And so hopefully by the time you finished preparing this and putting it together, I hope to have something up and published and available for people to go to. And
Very cool.
you know how to spell Noodelman, and it's just one word, noodlemanphotos.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Noodelman, one word. Photographs,
No, photos.
photos.com, noodlemanphotos.com. Is that all one word?
Yeah.
Excellent. And I'm assuming triple W. So, yes, by the time this is up, which actually I'm very fast, by the end of the day, this will be ready. But if
Oh,
you
no,
want,
I won't be.
I'll take my time. I'll give it a few days, etc. A few days? No, I need months. Oh no.
Well,
But
I'm going to be on the phone with you immediately after,
yeah.
so you can help me. So I'll be able to get it ready for you.
Oh, sure. I can't wait. It's going to be gorgeous. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show this day, Mel.
You're too kind, really. I mean, I'm just a hack, but I have fun with it. I enjoy it, and you're very, very kind in your compliments.
Well, you're very, very good and you're appreciated. I wanted you to know that, Mel. And I'm sure once more people get a look at your work, they'll go, holy cow, they'll whether it's a skilled artist with a good eye, or whether it's what I call a lay person, just a regular person, there's something for everybody, and everyone will enjoy your work.
Well, I hope so. And you're very kind to have me on.
Well, it's true. And I want to thank all of you out there for joining us this day on Magical People. We'll see you all really soon.